Well, good morning everyone. So today I'm going to talk to you about working with plant medicines. I'm going to be focusing particularly on what happens afterwards, but not exclusively. So one of the first things we learn about working with plant medicines is it's so much to do with letting go of expectation. Usually there's a pretty strong driving force that's acting on a person that causes them to want to take plant medicines, because let's face it, it's not an easy thing to do. You've got to find someone who works in this way. You've got to obtain a place. None of this is straightforward or easy. Sometimes people end up having to wait a long time before this happens. Now what this all does, of course, is it drives and increases the level of expectation. So by the time the person finally turns up there, and they've most likely done a plant diet or some kind of a preparation process, it means that the expectation is even greater. They've invested all this time, all this money, they're putting all this intention into it. And of course, what do they want? They want results. And here's where the problem comes, because what they want is they want results which they can see and understand within their own frame of reference. Now, of course, as soon as you start to work with plants, the very first thing you learn is to let go of all that. And that's not an easy process for a lot of people, to let go of all the expectations, all the image of perfection about how you think it should go. And I've had some amazing experiences over the years, and I can remember particularly certain times at the end of a retreat being faced with one or maybe a whole bunch of angry people because it didn't go the way they wanted it to. So let's really look at this in a bit of detail, and let's go into actually what happens afterwards, because after the main event we go into an integration phase. And the trickiest thing of all about this integration phase is that nothing, and I really want to hammer this point home, nothing is as it seems. So when you're integrating from a plant medicine experience, the first thing you want to realize is that the degree to which you've been able to let go of expectations during the experience will play quite a large part in how things go from here on in. So what I want to do now is to give you an example of a possible defining moment. So for some people, it's quite a common thing. A really big defining moment is that the person is utterly convinced that what's going to happen is they're going to be dragged right out of the way that they perceive reality. Almost like by the scruff of their neck, they're going to be taken up and they're going to be shown God, and God is going to say to them something so profound and earth-shattering, it's going to change their whole lives, and they're going to come back and they're going to feel completely different and everything changes. Well, that's not impossible, but that's not even the desired outcome. That's the bit that I really want you to grasp. The desired outcome is not some fantastic epiphany with your creator, because of course what we all need to remember and find it so easy to forget is we are all gods and goddesses in the making anyway. So the idea of going to an external source is all about the old age way of thinking, which brings me to the other old age way of thinking. Pretty much everyone who works with plant medicines at first is completely wedded hook, line and sinker to what I call the pharmaceutical model. The pharmaceutical model has really got a lot to answer for, and it goes like this: I've got a problem, I've got an illness, I've got an issue, I've got a mental state, whatever it is a person's dealing with. I just need to take that magic bullet and that will sort me out. And the more of it that I take, the more sorted out I'm going to be. Now, even within the frame of reference of the pharmaceutical industry, this is actually blatantly not true. But most people who haven't studied pharmacology and working with pharmaceutical drugs don't even understand that. There's so much in the way of misconception about working with things that actually are here to heal us. So even with the pharmaceutical model, more doesn't necessarily mean better. And of course everyone knows there's something called an overdose. If you have too much, you can actually do more harm than good in the pharmaceutical model. Thankfully, that is much less the case when we're working with plant medicines. It's not that you can take so much you're going to do yourself actual harm. It doesn't work like that. But what it does mean is this: more does not necessarily mean better. It doesn't necessarily mean a profound experience or a more profound experience. It doesn't mean to say you're going to get more healing the more you take. It doesn't work like that. And this is why microdosing is becoming more and more popular with people, as they are discovering that actually less is more. So I'm going to take you through my most recent experience about working with one particular plant medicine, which is called the white. Now, the thing about the white is this is a medicine which connects us to light. And it's very important to understand this, because if you go into deep spiritual practice, yoga and all the rest of it, you get the idea that actually all of us, we are light beings, and we come from the source, which is the light, and eventually at some point we return to source, which is at the light. But what I love about this particular medicine is it makes us realize that actually the truth of this statement is demonstrable, because what happens when we take the white medicine, and it works really well with small amounts or not so small amounts, is we become aware of a light quality thing to things, and this can be particularly obvious when we close our eyes. And when we connect with nature, we can also feel this as well. A particularly beautiful thing to do with white medicine is to work in the daytime and start to become aware of the plants. That's very powerful. But here's the point I want you to realize. So in my most recent experience, because I'm working with other people, I'm very limited as a matter of choice. And this is instructions from the plant. You will have very little. So for me, in microdoses, anything from 3 grams down to 1 gram. And there's one dose for me, that's it. Well, in my most recent experience, actually, I was instructed to stop at half. So I had literally half a gram. When people work with plant medicines of this kind, they're working with 3 doses up to maximum, and they're having between 10 and 20 grams per dose. So they could be having a maximum of 60 grams. So they're around with half a gram. So I'm having 120th of what other people are having. So according to the conventional pharmaceutical model, this means that nothing's going to happen, doesn't it? Because it's such a minuscule amount. How can that do anything? And yet with experience teaches a lot. In fact, it's the other way around, because I'm having such a small amount. One thing that I've done straight away is I have zero expectation. I'm there purely in service to other people. I'm not interested in anything happening particularly to me, which is actually creating the best, most fertile ground for a profound experience with really profound integration. Now, my integration process has been so profound. I've been at this for, is it 5 days now, and it's still continuing, which is another message about these plant medicines. I say the white plant medicine is for life, but it applies to all plant medicines. At any point after the experience, and of course during the experience, insights can come. But here's the thing: insights are not being grabbed by the scruff of the neck and shoved into the face of God. That's not what they are about at all. What they are about is a subtle sense of awareness, suddenly a realization of something, which can be sudden or gradual, but it is subtle. It's quiet, and it's in the quiet moments. It's when you stop, it's when you shut up and start to pay attention that these things come. So here we are. Let's have a look at some of mine and my most recent experience. Well, something that started to happen for me is I started to be aware of having water coming out of my eyes. Now, this has happened before, but the difference was I became aware what it was about. This is to do with my primary life trauma in this lifetime, about being a child and experiencing severe abuse, including satanic abuse. That's what it was about. It was about the tears that were not able to be shed as a child. So it's about the fact that this is 2019. 2019 is when all the shit that has ever been experienced by you is starting to come to the surface big time, to be healed and released. So that was like a very powerful sign for me. It's time to grieve for what happened so long ago. Time to grieve. This is the year to grieve, to experience those difficult feelings. This is for all people, whether they're working with plant medicines or whether they're not. It's just that the medicines help us to become more acutely aware of what's going on. And my second one is I'm aware of sounds, a ringing, and I can hear it right now. And my experience was 6 days ago, and I can hear that sound, and that sound is a literal awareness of connection with the source, that we are always in the oneness. We are one with all life, with all beings. And when a person experiences something profound, when we are sufficiently open and aware, we can become aware of that too. And that might sound like a bit of a problem if you're aware of some difficult stuff but someone else is going through. But actually, this is the power of the true humanity, to realize that we are all one, we are all connected. And if there is one out there that's suffering, that affects us all. One of the greatest illusions we can get into is to think that we can go around and cause havoc and mayhem to other people and get away with it. Actually, we can't. It all comes back to us. And this is the year when we become more acutely conscious and cognizant of this as ever before. The light within I've spoken about. So this is it. Let me be really specifically precise. Your body has got DNA. DNA is a genetic code, which is literally the script that writes your genetic makeup, who you are, how you function, your body, everything about you. Well, guess what? DNA emits virtual photons. Virtual photons is a scientist's way of saying light. So we're made up of DNA. We've got hundreds of billions of cells in our body. All except for the red blood cells are bursting, crammed full of this DNA. And the DNA emits light. It's been measured. It's a fact. It's not a spiritual story. This is the truth, and this is what the plant medicine shows us. It shows us that light. The other thing is these hundreds of billions of cells, they've got cell membranes. They've got actually a double cell membrane. The double cell membrane also emits light. So when we say connected to the light, this is a deep scientific fact as well as a spiritual truth. So for you to get any sense through working with plants about you being a light being, that's very powerful. And I'm not even going to tell you what that means. I'm going to invite you through your own experience of life to actually come to an understanding about how important and powerful that is, not to be underestimated. Something else that can happen for people is their awareness of the realm of the plants becomes greatly heightened and enhanced as they realize that plants actually are light beings too. And it's why when we work with plants, we're often really keenly aware of the plants around us, because they have such love for human beings and humanity. In fact, for all life, they're part of the oneness. And when you take a plant into your body, a plant medicine, there's like a holy communion acting, whereby that plant is becoming you and you're becoming that plant. We're taking the qualities of each other. We are a gift to the plants are a gift to us. That's the way it works. Acceptance. This is a really big thing that happens to people. First of all, they enter the resistance, but I want it to be like this, I want it to be like that, and then there comes a moment when they let go and they accept. This is true in the retreat experience, but in the integration it becomes even more so, to start to accept that things didn't go the way you wanted it to, because actually you don't have the intelligence to even know how things are supposed to go, but the source knows and the plants know. So actually your job is to accept whatever is going on moment to moment. Now the more you accept, the more you can slip into a state of relaxation. And this is a truly great gift of working with plants. Either during or afterwards, there comes that sense of relaxation. There isn't the need to cling on to the edge of the cliff anymore, because you've let go into how things are, moment by moment. And when things don't go the way we want them to go, that's a great opportunity to go even more into acceptance. Another gift. And this was a surprise to me, because I worked with a tobacco spirit during the retreat and also with the green medicine. And what happened is, when my integration really kicked in following day, I lost my desire to smoke. And it was the first day of my integration, so I continued to do so. I continued to smoke, even though my desire was going and gone. And the following day, that was it. Just not interested. Now, this is a really big thing, because I've been working with plants for 11 years. So I've been working particularly with the tobacco spirits, a very important and major part of it. And what I'm sharing here is the understanding that at any moment in any integration process, and the more you work with plants, the more this becomes obvious, the more it becomes obvious we just have to be prepared to let go of anything at a moment's notice. So the impulse to smoke has gone. Bye-bye. The next thing that really surprised me is I have a great love for the cacao plants, and I make the raw chocolate, I make the bulletproof chocolate, and I share this with many people. That's gone. I'm not working with cacao anymore. So the thing about the plants is they have such intelligence. They know one of the qualities of the human being, which is a really tricky one we all face if we live in the Western world, and that is greed. We all face, and we all need to guard against greed. So it finally got to the point with me, with the cacao particularly, but also with the smoking to an extent as well. There was an element of greed there. And so what I needed to do is to let go of the greed, and the way to let go of the greed is stop doing the things I love. Just let them go and do other things, being aware that change is an essential part of the human experience. So that's a pretty big thing. It's not like I got grabbed by the scruff of the neck and taken up to meet God. No, the impulse just simply went. This is how it can be. It can be this simple and straightforward. To be more outgoing. This is tied in with something else. Spending so much time living in a place which is primarily inhabited by women of advanced age. This has had a really big effect on my consciousness. And I'm living in a place where the majority of people are at the end of their life, approaching the end of their life. And that's not where I'm at. I've got work to do. I've got things to get on with. I'm here for purposes, many and various, but it involves working with others. But what I needed to do is to let go of the effect my environment was having on me. And the message very clearly was to become more outgoing. And so when I got back, I had a discussion with my partner about this, and it suddenly occurred to me that what I need to do is to be around different people in a different circumstance. And I was clearly given a little bit of guidance. I haven't been to a festival since 2007. That's got a lot to do with my wife dying in 2005, and then my father dying in 2010, my sister dying in 2012. So much dying and death going on, and so much other stuff going on. Just haven't had time for festivals, so that's it. I booked onto a festival for myself and my partner. We're going to a festival. Now that's the kind of retreat integration outcome I would never have imagined in a million years. And yet, because I was sitting very quietly on the balcony, it came to me. Be more outgoing. Book onto a festival. So I've done it. It's great. It's wonderful. What else have I got here? And this relates to the festival. Take more risks. That's an obvious thing. Take more risks and connect with my vitality. It's been so easy to get bogged down in what has been the nightmare of my mother's last 9 months. It's been very difficult. The shingles, the acute pain becoming chronic, the pharmaceutical drugs she's been obliged to take, helping her to get out of those, the fall, hospital operation for the hip, more pharmaceutical drugs, recovering in the home, falling out of bed. It just goes on. All really challenging. And because we're all one, it's been so easy for me to get caught up in the horrible of that. But what I need to remember is, while I can be aware of the oneness of that and be aware of the empathy, also to understand my own journey, is actually to connect to life and to vitality. That's a really big one that I was shown on my integration. Taking responsibility for my process while being in service to others, while giving them the responsibility for their own process. Something I tend to do is I tend to be very concerned about other people, especially in the integration phase, and I want them to get the insights at the speed that I do. And what I'm shown is I just need to let go of all that. People do things in their own way, in their own time, and that includes me too. So one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is to completely let go of all expectation, and then just go on about your day, but at least giving yourself time just to sit and be. That is helpful. And just allow the monkey mind to get a bit agitated, and then just let it go. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to start to turn your attention from the inside out. So if my monkey mind is going, I've got my attention inside, my thoughts, my ideas, my opinions, my thinking, I can let go of all that by becoming aware of the air around me, the plants next to me, the environment just outside, the sky, the wind, the birds, whatever is going on. So I start to become more externally focused. This is a really great way to integrate. Go outside, be in nature, whether it's a tree in a city street or utter wilderness, whatever you can manage, experience nature. Take your attention out of yourself, out of your mind, and into your environment. This really speeds up the process. But for my lesson, it's to accept everyone does this in their own way, in their own time. And all I can do is to assist the person by giving them the opportunity for the experience. It's up to them how they handle it. Of course it is. And that is what I learned. And I want to share a little bit about someone who is on the most recent experience with us, because what was really beautiful is when we were outside and this person brought their own drum, and they connected so deeply and so fully with the drum that everyone, including me, was in appreciation and enjoyment of that experience. That was really beautiful. And there's a particular point arose where there was an impulse, let's have some singing. And I sang one of my ikaru, and ikaru is a plant medicine song which came from the white medicine. And then the person doing the drumming, they connected and they started to sing, and they sung exactly what I just talked about. They got out of their head and they got into what was going on around them, and they described the environment in English while singing. And I could tell while the person was doing this, it was a bit of a laugh, and that's the whole point. The white is funny, and that's great. But within that funniness, there's also a very profound sobriety. And what the integration message where I was picking up there is, this is how all the spiritual songs of all the practitioners of the plant medicines worldwide come from. They come from a fun place, spontaneously effortless, and it's very light and very easy. And it's very easy to dismiss and to think there's nothing of significance there, but actually what was happening is that communion with that person and that plant, they were being shown their spiritual songs, and that's what an ikaru is. An ikaru is a spiritual song, and they are very, very simple, these spiritual songs, and it was a simple description of what was going on around that person, and it was light, and it was so beautiful. And that's what I love about working with people with plants, is the unexpected beauty when that arises. It's such a gift. So that's something I take with me for life. That's something that goes into my deep core memory banks as a moment of sheer magic. So the greatest and most magical moments happening with the plants are the littlest things, the things that you're most likely to dismiss or not realize the importance of. And the most important one is to realize that we come from the source, we are light, and we are all one. And when you allow that message to sink right into the core of your being, into the depths of your soul, that's when the real magic happens. Thank you very much.